All right, I am here with Amy Magers on the Redbelt Podcast. How are you doing, Amy?
Doing really well. Thanks for having me.
All right, so I met Amy through a coaching group that I don't think Amy had anything to do with the coaching group at that time,
Oh,
but now basically runs the coaching or co-runs the coaching group, that coaching.
yes. I
Um,
like to say it's the hair club for men model. I was just a client and now I'm, an owner, like that kind of thing. That's how I like to describe my involvement with that.
so within that group, when you open up things for questions, most people ask Amy about like systems and things like that. And
Yes.
really, we've talked about that on other episodes, not really drilling down on systems, but the idea, DMAC was just talking about it. I talk about it all the time. Whether your systems are software or they're people, or ideally some set of both. If you don't have any sort of systems, you're just kind of wandering through the chaos, hoping everything is okay, and usually it's not okay. Um,
Right.
so I had asked Amy to go over maybe some systems we could share for people that maybe don't have a lot of team members or any at all. Before we go into that, though, tell us a little bit more about yourself, Amy. Like, because I know you, but like other people maybe don't.
Sure. Sure. So I am a co-owner of Combat Business Success, which is a long-running Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and MMA consulting group, small business coaching, and we have an agency as well. So we run Facebook ads, social media, and Google. Um, Before that, I was a client because I own a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu academy with my husband, and that we've been in business in Ann Arbor, Michigan for 14 years. So he is I know you got a lot of 10th Planet listeners, but my husband started as a traditional gi guy. And now he does we do equal gi and no gi every day in our academy. But that's where he started with a traditional background with Salo and Shanji Hibero, and training with them as a student when they lived in Ohio. And then we opened up our academy in Ann Arbor. So that's where we came from and how we got into the the business, and then especially the consulting side came from us becoming clients there. Now, my own personal background, I have a background in communication consulting from college, and I actually get to use my degree, which is a rarity these days. But I get to come in and I look at how businesses are communicating, not just with their clients, but with their staff. And for people who don't have staff, sometimes they're like, oh, that's not for me. Um, there are so many business owners, so many martial arts, jujitsu business owners who are working with their significant others, and that's enough of an area, such a big area where we really need to work on communication, because that can be a huge challenge when you're running, like I call it a mom and pop jujitsu shop, like a two-man show. You maybe have yourself and one key person, whether it's a coach or a spouse or significant other, or just any business partner. You have just the two of you doing so much. I think the communication and the systems that you put in place, even in a very small scenario like that, are absolutely crucial to set up the foundation to allow you to grow.
So she set it up to go right into the
Did.
topic, which is that, right? That last thing, basically, for people, systems, but specifically, since a lot of you guys listening don't have a vast number of people yet, idea systems definitely become even more important as you do have more people. But even if you don't, how can we start to implement systems if it's just me, or maybe it's me and one
Sure.
other person? Um,
Yeah, I think a lot of people, I think one of the biggest challenges when we talk about implementing systems into the businesses, I think that sounds very intimidating to people. Oh, I have to do things totally differently. And I don't like to think of systems in a complicated way like that. I like to really just talk about first what is a system and why do we need them? A system is, you need a system. This is the way I like to think of it. You need a system when your natural way of going does not produce the results that you want. If your natural instincts, natural behaviors, what you do every day does not produce the results that you want, you need a system in place to guide you down the path or to make sure that you do the actions that will give you the result that you want. And that's all a system is to me, or really that's why you need them. And then what is the actual system? The system is just literally writing the steps that you want to be repeated day in and day out. So what is a system? To me, it's a repeated pattern of behavior, something I want to ensure happens every single time this one event occurs. That's all a system is. We don't have to make it this big complicated thing. We may call it an SOP, which is a standard operating procedure. And that's just kind of corporate speak for literally what I said, a list that you repeat daily. And so if you're talking about implementing your first system ever, the number one way that I start with people is to just quite literally write down what needs to be done to open your gym. What do you want done every single time? Every single time you open your gym, write a checklist. That's your first system. It doesn't have to be overly complicated. You just want to make sure that that happens every time. After that, we move into what happens when you close the place. You know, do you have to turn the lights off? Do you have to lock the doors? Do you have a coffee maker somewhere that needs to be shut off? Do you have an alarm system? Are you mopping the mats, hopefully? You know, does the mop need to be washed beforehand? Does it need to be hung to dry? Do you need to spray something else somewhere? Do you need to check on the trash? Whatever it is, you write down the ideal way that you would want that done, and that checklist becomes your first system. Very, very simple.
I like that. And that's also the opening and closing checklist is also the first two that I did as well.
Absolutely.
So, but trying to go from the brain that I had before and people that I've talked to that just have one, like, so why would you want to do this though? So especially if it's just them, it's like, the place has been opened and cleaned every day. We've never missed the mats. Why do I want to write that down? I don't write that down. Pointless busy work. Flashback to second grade, write it 3 times each. Why do I need to do this?
Well, I haven't met anybody perfect yet. So I don't know if maybe you do, but I meet a lot of people who, even though they have the best intentions of doing step A through Z, they occasionally miss one or two. And I think especially as self-employed people, as solopreneurs or just business owners, one of the hardest things for us is accountability. Because we don't have bosses anymore. We used to have bosses back in the day, and for whatever brilliant reason, because it is brilliant, we decided not to work for anyone else anymore and just work for ourselves. But one of the hardest challenges about working for ourselves is that no one's looking over our shoulder to make sure that this stuff gets done. So it's very, very easy to say, hey, listen, I know I need to sweep this corner. I know I need to sweep this out. I know I need to empty this trash. But if we don't hold ourselves accountable to a list, then occasionally we're like, I'm really tired tonight. I'll get it tomorrow. And then you got clients who come in the day and they get to see the mess that you didn't feel like doing afterwards. So I think it holds you accountable to making sure you're providing the absolute best that you can. And that's why it's important. And make it fun. You know, is it busy work? No, it's busy work one time. You make a list one time. I laminate the thing. I'm pretty old school. I don't even have it on a computer. I have it laminated on a clipboard because I just find that it works better to have this clipboard that we use with a dry or a wet erase marker. And it's not just me who does that. If you've ever gone into an IKEA or a lot of big box stores, on the back door of a bathroom, there will be a very similar checklist to what we're talking about. And if they don't need a computer to do it, those big box stores who could have computers, you know, they got more money than anybody. If they can use a checklist on a clipboard, I can use a checklist on a clipboard. So I think it just holds us individually accountable to making sure that we're doing our best.
Yeah, I think when I agree with you, but I'm trying to kind of drill it down into people's heads. I do think people should do that. But like she was saying, that when you list the details, so not just like, open the gym. When you list, okay, how do we clean this corner specifically? Now, you write down your ideal version. Yes. Are you doing your ideal version every time? And that's probably why you're falling short. You probably do open the gym every day.
Oh, yeah.
You probably do clean the mats every day too. Do you clean that corner? I don't know. But you probably, without the list, are probably cleaning the mats every day. That said, I've been to some places that don't, and that's icky, but you probably are, right? hopefully everybody pause the podcast and clean your mats if you haven't done that.
Oh
But
God,
otherwise,
please. Yes.
um, so yes, I think the value does come in from like the detail you get from your ideal version, and this is also how you get these lists. And I know Amy has had tons of requests to her list, and I'm not saying it's bad to give them out. I have had now too. And I really think what she's saying is better than that, though. Not that like, hey, you shouldn't get lists from someone else, but if you go through this process, you actually have your stuff and you understand it. Um, and otherwise, you just don't. Nobody follows it. Is what it seems like. If you just like, okay, I'll now download this list of 100 SOPs off the internet from this top gym, and this
Right.
amazing gym does it. Clearly, they're great, so I'll be amazing too if I just do all this stuff.
Yes.
Except you're
Man.
usually not amazing after doing that.
No, and honestly, I mean, this is the age where we are all starting to use bits of AI. You could go to ChatGPT and you could ask ChatGPT for a list of SOPs to run your business. And I think there's a lot of consultants out there who are literally saying that and offering that, like, get the AI solution to run your gym as easy as possible. And it's like, okay, listen, just like before, now we say, oh, AI has the solution to all things. Well, before YouTube had the solution to all things and really still does. None of this is novel or brand new, the concept of doing this, or nor do they, not exist anywhere. There are SOPs everywhere. But what you're saying, it's not about me having SOPs, it's about you having an SOP that's very specific to what you do. And the opening closing checklist, I actually call it the OCD checklist because it's opening closing during checklist is what we refer to it as. The OCD is just a fun little pun that happened by accident. But the OCD checklist should be everyone's first SOP. I will give that out if they want to hit me up on Instagram. I'll go ahead and give that to people too. But that has to be custom to your academy. And that also has to be something that you look at and review. So when I give this out, I always give it as an editable document because mine is not yours. Our schools are not the same. I already probably had a few people who rolled their eyes a bit when I said we have started as a gi jiu-jitsu school. It's like obviously some of the
Probably
things
not.
that we do. No, we're good.
Probably not. Well, because all the other consultants are karate people, right?
Oh, that's actually true. Yeah, there you go. That's fair.
We
All right, so
both
I'm one step above that.
we both have BJJ schools, so
Yes,
we're
absolutely.
already on the same page, mainly on what needs to be done there.
Perfect. Okay, good. So, I always give an editable document because what is important for my school may not be exactly what you do. For example, if you don't have a lot of parents sitting around, then looking into your kids' lobby and making sure that there's chalk for the kids' lobby is probably not something you need to do. And don't leave that on a checklist that you write because I think there's a real issue sometimes when you go and take an SOP from someone else and then you don't do everything. I think the habit of skipping one puts you in a really bad spot. It's a very slippery slope where if I skip this one, I can skip this one too. Oh, if I skip these two, I can skip that. And then you're right back to just your own natural behaviors, which is what led to the need for this system in the first place. Because your natural behavior is not giving you the result that you want. But the double problem that you've created for yourself is that in your head, you think you have a system. So my natural behavior is not getting what I want. My system's not working either. None of this shit works, And it's like, no, you're picking and choosing. You're doing 50%. You're doing your natural behaviors and you're not following this ideal version of whatever system it is. We keep talking about opening, closing checklist, but whatever ideal version, you're skipping it. So, but you're convinced that the system doesn't work when you're not even working the system. So you have to be very self-aware, I think, of your own behavior. I think a lot of personal development really stems from self-awareness. Am I using what I've been given? This is a tool. Am I using it? Am I using it in the best possible way? Would I hire someone to run the system the way I run it? Or would I be pretty upset if a person that I hired was picking and choosing off this list. So we have to really work on being honest with ourselves about, are we doing everything that we can do? Are we following the systems, and are we truly putting in our best effort on something on a list like this?
So, and the topic also of the value of having a custom list, of kind of looking at these other SOPs that are out there. You can talk to Chat GPT, you can look at other leading people's SOPs, but for example, if you have a custom list and it's something like, take something boring like cleaning the bathrooms, and it's fill the cleaning solution with 3 cups of water and one half scoop of the solution, and then spray the bottom, the floor, and then maybe halfway through you need a new paper towel, right? So like you should do it, right? If you do it enough and you know exactly what this does, is it gets rid of confusion of employees doing it right or wrong if you're overly. And I think some people's struggle is like, you can go too far down that and be like super micromanagery. But I think in the original list, to at least do it and try to time study style. So I know what that is. And Amy knows. I don't know how many listeners do, but like from an engineering standpoint, like exactly what are we doing? And if you ever do want to give away a job, that's pretty handy.
Yes.
If you want to give somebody something, yeah.
Yeah, no, that's exactly it. So for anyone who doesn't have staff right now, it is a little bit, I can understand why you're saying, do I need this? Do I need this? But the way I like to think of it as well is that you're listening to this podcast for a reason. You're listening to this podcast most likely because you intend to grow your business. You have an interest in growing your business. That's why you're searching, things like this out for additional information, is you want your business to grow. I'm a firm believer that you should begin how you intend to go on. Begin how you intend to go on. If you intend to be a single person running your gym and you just have a couple checklists around, that's one thing. But if you intend to grow your gym, then you will need to have a few systems, a few lists that you can give to someone. Your first hire can be very intimidating. A lot of people are very nervous to hire someone because they think, if I commit this money to their payroll, what are they going to do? I think that's one of the biggest fears that people have, is this idea that you're going to bring someone in, have to pay them hourly, and you think they might just sit there and do nothing. And I know that was a fear that I had when I was first hiring people. And I think that's one of the biggest fears that people have to overcome. But when you start building these systems out, or just start with checklists, again, if we want to just say repeatable checklists for now to keep the word not intimidating, when you start building those out, some of that fear of hiring that first person disappears, because what am I going to do with this person? I'm going to hand off this checklist to them. I'm going to hand off these 4 checklists to them. This is now their responsibility. And they do those things while I'm gone. And then you can focus on the stuff that only you can do. But to your point about how detailed they need to be, make them as detailed as you can, so that they're not stopping whatever they're trying to do to go ask you a question about, how do I do this thing? Because if they have to stop their day all the time to ask questions of you, then you're not getting the time to do the things only you can do, and they're not getting being as productive as they should be. So it's going to set you up in the future to be able to just hand these things off and have them done exactly the way that you want them done, that idealized version of how you want them done.
Yeah. So on the topic of, I'm worried that this person will just kind of sit there today, I'm going to go ahead and say I do think that is a legitimate worry when you're starting out. Because if you don't have things really together, they might actually be sitting there for a decent portion of the day. That could really happen. Have seen it before. Up really close, actually. So for that, though, as we expand this, so how do you take these? So we talked about, we made a couple of little systems, but how how do you connect them and take these opening checklists and make it, here's what you do at this time of day, and like occupy either my day. So if you want to plan out your own day, or work together with a spouse or a partner to plan out what you guys are going to do so you don't run into each other or whatever. Or
Yes.
say what we've got this part-time person, intern, whatever you've got, and we don't want them to sit there for whatever their shift is. So how do we
Yeah.
move that little list of things? Because one big list of things by itself probably isn't sufficient for this, right?
Correct. Correct. We don't want to just have lists. I know I just said lists are the most important thing to start with. We start there for sure. But I think one of the best things that you can do after that is actually implement a time block schedule in addition to the lists. I don't know if everyone is familiar with a time block schedule, but it's kind of exactly what it sounds like. It's your schedule throughout the day, and then you're going to identify these chunks of time, these blocks of time, and you're going to use those blocks for a very specific purpose. So, for example, some people will get insane with this. Do not go crazy here. I'm in a stage of life where I'm simplifying everything. Back in the day, there used to be a huge push in the entrepreneurial info marketing world where people were like, I'm part of the 5 a.m. club, and my wake up routine or my morning routine is an hour and a half, and it involves sauna, then this, then whatever. And they just do these crazy things. And then they have their first block and they're like, I write emails for 43 minutes. And then I do this for 62 seconds. I don't know. It's just bizarre. I don't think it needs to be like that. In fact, I always joke that those are people who are single men with no wife, no kids, because that is the only way that you could possibly own that much of your time, is if you don't have a wife or a child demanding that you do something else. I say that as a wife, so whatever. But once you have, other responsibilities that enter the chat, you do not have the opportunity to be that in control of 24 hours of your day. So how does time blocking help the average gym owner? Well, the average gym owner has a lot of responsibility. Okay. So let's say that you have another job. Your hours of being able to work on your gym are very, very limited, extremely limited. So again, this goes back to personal accountability and personal responsibility, taking ownership of the amount of time that you have. We all know what it looks like when time slips away from us. We can all agree that that happens. And it typically happens, again, sorry about that light. It typically happens because of this stupid thing here. And how often have we been caught scrolling and you look over at a clock and you're like, oh my gosh, have I been doing this for like 40 minutes? I didn't even realize I was watching reel after reel after reel. Well, 40 minutes is a legit block of time. What could you have been doing in those 40 minutes? And you could have a checklist on the wall, but if you don't attach it to a time block, I think it's difficult to actually implement those things, and just hope that they all get done with the amount of time that you have, this infinite amount of time and this infinite list of things to do. We need to organize it beyond that with these time blocks.
Yeah. So let's give an example for
Yeah.
Say if we have somebody that's going to be in from noon to 8, and from like
Okay.
5 it's going to be nuts, right? Because that's the
Mm-hmm.
class times. But then from 12 to 5 they got a time block out, because I know what a lot of people do in between 12 to 5. If any random fire comes up, they do that.
Yes.
There's no paper towels, I guess I'll run to the store.
Yes.
Or maybe some scrolling happens. And
Right.
then 5 hours has passed. So actually the majority of that 8-hour period.
Yeah.
During the rest of it, things are happening. So that's basically customers claim most of that other piece of it, unless you have a lot of stuff for you. So how could we block out that other 5 hours? And I picked some random times, but I know I dealt with.
No, they're actually not random times. That's actually my shift. For my sales manager is noon to 9, or noon to 9:30 ish. So yeah, it's not a super random time. That is actually a shift of hours. So I'll just tell you what he does. So he's our sales manager, and we have 1 to 2 UTMs. We're actually, which is our first level employee. Most people would call them an appointment setter or a salesperson or a member representative or something along those lines. UTM for me stands for Universal Team Member, which means you can do a little bit of everything, but you're not wholly responsible for anything. They work underneath someone else. So I actually run a pretty small staff right now at the Academy. I have multiple instructors, but as far as my front of house crew is pretty minimal. I keep it to about 3. I don't have a ton. Um, but what his shift looks like is when he first goes in, he has to minorly set up the academy, just enough that if someone walks in, it looks like it's not a haunted house, turn some of the lights on, not everything, make sure the internet's whatever. I mean, it's maybe a 15-20 minute block. That's his first one, is just kind of get everything started, make sure the computers are up and running and everything was charged the night before. If they might do a walkthrough just to make sure everything was cleaned properly before, kind of checking up on the previous night. That first, I think I give them a half hour for that. After that, we do a 90-minute block, which I call an appointment setter power hour. We use another system in-house, which is how many appointments should we set per day. So for us, setting appointments is actually the most important thing that anyone can do, because appointments lead to new members. And we know with what percentage, how often that's going to happen. So the more appointments we set, the more new members that we ultimately have. So we have to reach out to people as much as we can and try to set appointments. But a lot of people think they set appointments when they do what you just described, where it's like, oh, somebody called and I answered. I worked, but they don't give themselves a 90-minute block to call everyone who may have inquired, but then actually go back to the people who inquired last week or yesterday, or the people who were supposed to come in and didn't. We call that list farming. So he's spending 90 minutes really going through all the leads with no distractions, because again, that's his block time for this, and digging through and trying to set those appointments. So that's a huge chunk of his time right there. After that, he's got a little bit of time in the meantime, because again, you're still a human. So you need to, maybe it's whatever, it could be lunch for some people, or it could be, I don't know, take a walk for a couple moments. But the next major chunk that he has is social media. So you can, again, look at the things that need to be done in your academy, or the things that you wish were done in your academy, and assign a time block to it so that it actually gets done in your academy. So social media is a block that he has, I think, 2 to 3 times per week for about an hour, about 50 minutes to an hour. That's 2 to 3 times per week. What's another one? He has to go through the paperwork from the previous 2 or 3 days of sales and make sure all that paperwork matches the system, because software is fantastic unless you put the wrong information in. So you need to make sure that the user error doesn't screw up what the software is trying to help you with. So he goes through and double checks. We call that an audit. He's got a block where he does an audit like that. So, there's a few more we can do. But those are some of the major chunks. And then one of the biggest things that I added recently was that shift, understanding that shift from, this is where I'm working on the business from noon to 4:30 or whatever. And this is where I'm working in the business from basically 4:30 on. It's go time. This is where we're in the business doing stuff with prospects and clients. Before that, I was able to do all these other projects. But one of the things that we've implemented recently is basically a huddle. So for anyone who's just coming in that night, to get caught up with what's been happening during the day and find out how many new people are going to be coming in that night, we have like a 10 to 15 minute huddle where they can just talk about what's going to happen for the shift that night. And then the next 15 minutes after that is actually setting up the academy for the night. So we have like defense soap foot washing stations. Those have to get set out. We have to make sure that all of the mats are, we basically continue the setup that we half started before, but now we're just getting it ready for clients. So that happens at the same time between 4 and 4:30 every night, because we know that with our first class at 5, by 4:30, clients can be coming in. So it's really easy when you look and you start implementing these time blocks, I think actually one of the bigger problems is, do I actually have enough time for the list that I gave these people? So I think once you're time blocking, it becomes an accountability check on both of us. Did I give my employee or my wife, this is actually really important. I said it was important to have communication with your spouse if you're working with your spouse. I asked my spouse to do all this work. Did I actually give them enough time to do that work? Sometimes the answer is no. But if you don't know that by laying out these time blocks, you can get really resentful of the person working with you or working for you. And you can start fighting over, what do you mean you didn't get that done? Well, I don't have enough time to get it done. Well, how do you not have enough time? You got from noon to 5. Well, I had this, and this to do. But the time blocking is what clarifies that entire conversation. So yeah, I think those two have to go hand in hand.
So I think this is one of the most important subjects, and I'd like to spend more time on it. But before we dive into it any deeper, I would like to ask, so you block these times off, and then somebody calls. So it said, this is the audit time. Say this isn't the call time. This is one of the other times other than the call time. And somebody calls, or somebody walked in the gym, or both at the same time. Or and so those are unplanned. Or perhaps if you do the model of either consultations or free private lessons or something like that, and you actually schedule these people, allow people to schedule during the day, which I do at my gym, then that would have to move time things around. So either planned or unplanned interruptions in the block. How do we deal with that?
Yeah. So there's a couple different ways. There is a software for this. I haven't used it, but I was testing it out. And there's a software called Motion, which actually, I'm pretty sure if I understand that correctly, one of the things that it does when I was messing with it is you create your blocks. And if something interrupts a block, it will actually reorganize your day to try to fit that in, or reorganize your week to try to fit that in elsewhere. For me, I just do that on my own, which is the main reason why I didn't move forward with the software, because I was like, I'm already naturally kind of doing that. So I have blocks on, Friday. Friday is an open block for me, which means that if I didn't get one of my blocks accomplished earlier in the week, I can move it over to Friday or possibly Thursday mid-afternoon and just slide something into one of those open spots and do that. Now, I'm the owner, so it's a little bit of a different situation, because if I have that open block and I don't need it, I'm off for the day. So I get to take Friday off if I'm going to do it that route. So you have to balance it when it's a staff member, because you won't want to give too many extra blocks. But I think that's one of those things that you do figure out over time. It also helps when you give people these blocks and someone comes in, it helps them understand, like, I can't let this conversation go 40 minutes. I have stuff to do today. That's not a bad little internal argument to have, because we have all had those people who call in who just want to name drop every jujitsu guy they've ever heard of. You know, you've had that prospect before. We've all had that person. Or they come in and they don't even want to try it. They just want to like bro out for a little bit, you know? And it's when I have work to do, or when my staff members have work to do, and somebody comes in like that, they do their best to kind of be nice and be polite, but move that person along so that they can get back to what they want to do. So accountability to their schedule and their kind of their own commitment to that schedule helps them to stay focused and not allow certain things to take over too much of their day. Now, if it's a good appointment, and actually you brought up an interesting point. You brought up phone call and a walk-in at the same time. I always help when I say, well, who do you talk to? And I'm like, the person who walked in. They always get preference, because there is nothing more awkward than if you walk into a business and someone can see you and they don't acknowledge you because they're on the phone. I just think it's so uncomfortable, and it's just a really good way for somebody to walk out. So if I'm ever have that situation and I'm literally like this, I'll say, excuse me for 1 second. I'll be right with you. Go have a seat, grab a water, and then I go right back, because this person doesn't know that someone walked in. this person can feel uncomfortable if I don't acknowledge them. So I always will stop and acknowledge the person who walks in before I'm done with the phone call. But yeah, I mean, most appointments to set don't take all that much time. So I'm going to try to set that appointment or answer that phone call and then go back to someone else or to whatever else I was going to do. Now, I might have to learn from it. I might look at that and say, hey, this is a block where people tend to call all the time. Maybe I need to move a appointment setter power hour here. I actually have 2 throughout the day. I do one first thing and then I do one at 3 o'clock as well, because 3 o'clock was a time where a lot of people were calling. So we made a little second 40-minute block there to just
you're doing
follow up.
You're doing like 11 or 12 for the first one and then 3 for the other one. So you're
Mm-hmm.
not doing one after 5.
No. Anything after 5 is just reactionary for us. If someone calls us back, I don't love to start new conversations after 5. Because like, especially new text or DM conversations, I don't love to start them there. I will send a message early, and if they reply, then we can keep going. But what I hate is the idea that, if we start a message at 7 and that thread just keeps going, then I'm going to bail from the thread, because we're answering these messages. Most of the time we're answering them on a desktop, and I'm not sending somebody home to go and have a DM conversation into the night with a prospect. So I prefer to start them as early as we can.
So you don't feel like, because I know I used to have, and I still to an extent, my staff for sure does, had a mental block about like, man, what so many people don't want to talk before they get off work at 5, right? So a shift of people. So you think it's fine?
I think people love to have any excuse to stop working during the day. And if they get
phone calls, not just text, phone calls during the day at 12 and 3, because I would love to use 12 and 3. I'm using an earlier one, but I'm not using a 3 for my gym, but I would love to do that. So perhaps I should just do that.
Give it a shot. Yeah. See how it works for you. I mean, a lot of people have unusual work schedules. They have a lot of free time during their day. 12 is good because it's a lunch hour for a lot of people. So you can start a conversation at 12, and by 3, people are bored with the day and half checked out. So yeah, I find that it works just fine. Again, a lot of people will call afterwards after work, but we don't really have an issue with people answering during the working hours. We don't know what people do for a living. So I think assuming that everyone works a classic 9 to 5 is a little bit of a cop-out from an appointment setter standard.
So so if we're starting at 12 and we do a 90-minute power hour, because you said yours is 90 minutes. Mm-hmm. Okay, so that puts us at 1:30. So we have an hour and a half before the next one at 3, if I'm fine.
Yeah, 3:30, something like that. Again, it's only 30, 40 minutes.
Okay, so, and you were saying like a 10, 15 minute either break or free time or like some little thing right after. And then in between that, so you listed some other things. Is the thing that you put after that, so you do these power hours every day, but right after this break, you're like, okay, audit these things. Is that the same every day, or is that different on different weekdays?
That changes on different days because the audit is only done once a week. So if we have a ton of sales, we can add another one. It's not a bad thing. Ashlyn, who used to do these, she used to love doing them on Sundays. She'd do them once a week on Sundays because it was a very quiet time in the academy. We had open mats and it was just simple. So she would come in and do them all there. But yeah, that was that's a once a week job. And you can some of the jobs are very important, but they just don't require as much time as others. Again, appointment setter power hours, there's a difference between, just for everyone listening, I know you know this, but for everyone listening, when I say that I have these blocks for power hours, that does not mean that we're not setting appointments throughout the day or continuing the conversations throughout the day. We are again, if it's a DM or a text conversation, we get notifications. We're going to be texting through our software the whole time. as long as it takes to get that done, because you can send a quick message while you're doing something else. We're blocking as much as we can, but the appointments is the most important thing. There's a few what we call keep the lights on tasks, and setting more appointments is one of the most important ones. So we're going to continue to attend to that as we need to throughout the day. But what a block does differently than just a reactionary appointment set. When nobody, Paul Holme, my business partner, said this yesterday. We had an online summit, and one of the things he said is almost no one gets the amount of leads that they need every day to set the number of appointments that they need every day. Almost nobody. If anyone did, it's probably you. You probably do. You're damn good at that. But most people don't get the number of new leads every day where you can just say, hey, I'm going to call 8 leads and I'm going to set 7 appointments. Most people don't get that. Most people are saying, I want to set 5 appointments, but I only got 3 leads today. Well, that means that we have a little bit of work to do to go back into our old leads and farm them, cultivate new appointments from old leads. And if you're just doing a reactionary appointment setter thing, meaning I answer the phone when the phone rings, or I respond to the email when the email comes in, you never give yourself the opportunity to go back to the people who were very interested enough to raise their hand and say, I want to try a free class. I want more information about your gym. Those people are legit. They do want that information. They will literally raise their hand. And it's bad customer service if you don't give them the thing that you asked them for. So I'm going to call you at multiple times throughout the day because I don't know when you're going to be available to accept the thing that you asked for, but it's my job now to provide you with what you asked for, which was that free class or that more information. So I'm going to try a couple different times. But again, without giving yourself that block where you're proactively setting appointments with leads that might have been a day old or a week old, you're missing a huge chunk of people who really are very interested in your program. They just weren't available the one time you called. We need to give ourselves time to go back to those.
For sure. And you can have software follow-ups and all these things, and Redbelt does that. But I'm also a huge fan of, like, yeah, we have to actually call the people more than once also. And to Amy's point, she's right that I am one of those that, like, I solved the problem with more leads and I was able to do that. However, I do feel like it has maybe made my team a little weaker in terms of, if I ever don't have them, they don't have the skills developed to be able to do it. And some of them are better, and we're working on that. And I also understand that if I did have 15 leads today, it's harder to set old leads from yesterday because I've now produced a lot of stuff for you to do today. And I do want you to get the ones from today first. Sure.
Of course. Absolutely. Yeah. Yeah, it does force you to, but again, that goes back to those blocks. If you, like, let's say you had a day where you didn't have 15 new leads. By the way, I want 15 new leads, so you can send them my way as well if you want to do that. But if you don't have it, but you still have that block, it sort of does force people into action because what else are you going to do at that time? This is my time. I do this until X amount of time. So I think it does make people think about how they work a little bit. We've talked a bit, I don't want to say people are bored, but I want to talk a little bit yesterday about how people need to learn to embrace boredom. Because the majority of things that we do, I heard this, I can't even remember who said this, but they said 90% of growing a successful business is boring shit. 90% of growing a successful business is boring shit. And I totally believe that. Farming through a list of old leads is not exciting. It does not sell consulting programs. I'll tell you that. When I tell people that I'm going to give them my system on how to farm their list, but does it grow your business? Hell yeah, absolutely it does. It's one of the number one things that we've used to grow our business when our leads are challenging. And where we live in Ann Arbor, there's not that many people searching for jujitsu in Ann Arbor. There's 1 or 2 schools, And if you actually look up the Google Analytics of how many people are using that search term, jujitsu, Brazilian jiu-jitsu near me, or near me, or in Ann Arbor, or whatever, it literally replies with not enough data to tell you. So Google is telling me, I mean, by all accounts, if you looked at it, Google should be saying, not a great place to have a jiu-jitsu school. Nobody really cares. No one is actively searching. It's not San Diego where there's 9 billion jiu-jitsu academies and kids in school know what it is and they talk about it. Like, it's still in the Midwest, not a lot of people, or in Texas now. I feel like everybody in Texas understands jiu-jitsu, especially in certain areas like Austin and whatnot. But like in Michigan, it's still not super well known, to the point where when you tell people what you do, they're like, oh, like karate? Sure. Okay. So we don't always get those leads that just naturally come in. I mean, the leads that come in are really a result of our ads, not just naturally people searching for it. So we have to do a little bit more hard work. We have to train our team to do a little bit more, if we want our academy to grow. And this is actually something I brought up yesterday on the online summit as well. I'm a big fan of what I call dead end questions. And I feel like that's a particular skill of mine, is being able to identify a dead end question or get to the dead end question very quickly. So for example, when I have a school owner that I'm working with and they're telling me, I want to grow my academy, I'll say, okay, you need to set more appointments. Well, they reply to me, I only get 3 or 4 leads per day, or 1 to 2 leads per day. Okay, well, in order to grow your academy, I think you need to set 4 appointments per day. Well, I can't do that with the leads, and you don't want to spend more money. Okay. Then you need to learn how to farm your list. Well, I don't want to do that. That seems exhausting. It seems boring. This school owner says, I don't have the time to do that. Or I don't really want to do that. And I said, okay, well, now we've hit a dead end question, because I initially asked you said you're not getting the leads that you want. And I initially asked you, do you want to spend more money, or do you want to maybe put more time into your social media to get more leads organically? And you said no to that. So now we've run into the dead end of, do you want to, you said you want to grow your gym, but you don't want to change your behavior. So, but now we're at a dead end. Which one is it? Are you going to change your behavior, or are you going to change your goals? Because you can't have the exact same behavior and new goals. You're never going to reach them. Something you're doing has to change in order for you to grow your business. Or just accept that you are where you are. But you can't have both. You can't have it both ways. You can't stay exactly the same and expect different results. A lot of people will say that's the definition of insanity. Doing the same thing and expecting new things to happen. No. So we're at a dead end. Are you going to change your behavior? Or are you going to change your goals? And be honest with yourself.
Yeah. So I do think that personally, from the person that almost always picks the find a way to get more leads answer to that question, I think honestly the best answer though, and the answer I'm trying to from building my BJJ business to building my software company, trying to optimize is, I think the best answer is get more out of the leads that you have. So, because even if I get more leads, I want the optimum amount out of the leads that we have, because what everybody says, and I'm 100%, unless something big changes, I don't think it's going to happen. Lead cost is headed up, right? And it's on a steady track up. I mean, the stock market goes ups and downs and crash. Crypto goes ups and downs and crash. But ad cost has only went in one direction, with that little clip for Christmas. But other than that, it heads straight up. So the whole quote of "he who can afford to spend the most to acquire the customer wins," I like to back that up to leads. So, right, so talking about optimize, upsells, things like that. But I think he who can afford to spend the most, not he who can get them the cheapest, is who wins.
Right.
Because as more people do this, and the way the leads work with these ads are bidding processes anyway, right? So if I can pay more than you and afford to buy more than you, I'll eventually just push you out.
Oh,
right?
absolutely. That's why I don't even do pay per click on Facebook, on social media during Black Friday. I don't
No,
do it. I
that's
focus
a little bit around
internally.
Christmas I was talking about.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, yeah.
but it did bump down a little bit, but yeah.
Yeah.
So that said, I do think year round is going to be more expensive than that blip.
I agree.
Probably this year.
Yeah, you're funny though, because like your response to that dead end question is one of my favorites. It was like, well, you can't get more leads, and Barncat's like, hold my beer. I'll be right back with all those leads.
Well,
So
you can always get more leads,
you
but
can. You absolutely can.
do you
But
want
a
to do
lot of
money or
Mhm,
time or whatever wise?
mhm.
And you could potentially, and this is for a whole different podcast maybe, but like you can get a job of somebody that just wants to work the weekends, and then that person goes to an event every weekend. And then, I mean, we do a lot of events
Sure.
that has nothing to do with Facebook. People are like, oh, Bondcast just
Right.
getting them on Facebook and Google and YouTube. It's like, no, no, no. Well, I do the other things too,
Yeah,
because I'm trying to hedge against the cost of all this stuff going up as well. Um,
absolutely. Yeah, that's our
so if I
entire
want to have
steam
a
engine.
job of
Mhm,
people doing that, right?
mhm.
There's an event tomorrow. I'm the other side of the world almost exactly. It's like a little off from the opposite side of the world. And there's a mural fest this weekend.
Okay.
That by we, I mean them, because I'm obviously
Yes.
not. And then so that's this weekend. And then there's the Southeast Texas State Fair that we will have a booth at for every day for 10 days. Um,
Perfect.
right. So like that's going on right now.
Yeah.
Exactly right now. Yeah, because is it tomorrow or is it yesterday over there? So
I
close
love
to
that
right
you don't
now,
know.
that's happening. Um, and
Oh, that's so fun.
all time blurs together for me.
Yeah, fair.
But anyway, so yeah, you can get more leads. It's
Mhm.
just like the cost, but once again, those are going up too, because what are those costs? Yes, they cost the cost of the venue, but they cost of what my cost of my employee. Well, that's going up because if you want to
Mhm.
keep an employee, it's almost double what it was
Yeah.
pre-COVID. So
Right. Yeah, that's another dead end question. Okay, I want more leads. All right, are you willing to invest money or time? Which one?
well,
Money or time? And it's not a completely mutually exclusive situation. You can
no,
invest both.
it's money because if it's you,
Fair.
it's an opportune cost. So you could have done
Right.
something else. You could have went and worked for a living that hour.
Sure.
So you're investing basically money either way. But some people feel
Hmm.
better investing their time. They feel like they could just okay,
Well, I
and
know
that way.
when we first started our gym, we were doing things, we couldn't afford pay per click advertising when we first started. And it was my husband and I, my husband left his job first and was working exclusively for the school when I had my job still. And we knew we needed to market, but we didn't have the money to use social media marketing. So, I mean, we did the old school guerrilla tactics and went to FedEx, Kinko's, and printed out a bunch of quarter page flyers and stuck them on cars, and we did all that kind of stuff. So that was very much it. Time is money. You're absolutely right. When you're first starting, though, it feels like it's free because you're like, it's just me. It's just me. And if
Yeah,
you don't have a ton in your gym going on yet, like if you're still really new and it's very part-time, or, we always used to use the term garage gym. If it's more of that, there are definitely times where you don't have 10 tons going on. Or better yet, you can use that time while you're flyering to make social media content as well. So you're doing kind of a combo of basically this offline marketing with online content, producing that. I still would want you to throw some money behind that content so that so people actually see it. But yeah, it escalates quickly for sure. But yeah, you do have to put in one of those resources in order to get more leads for sure.
yeah. In response to what you were saying, on some people can't afford pay-per-click advertising. I feel like you can always afford pay-per-click advertising because you can turn it off tomorrow. Like what? Like
You can turn off what?
you can turn it off tomorrow. It's not so these other
Fair.
companies, if you buy a billboard, I got to commit to the week or the month or
Fair.
whatever.
Yeah.
I can turn it off in an hour. Now it's going to be in learning and whatever, but
Yeah.
because I can turn it off, the reason I think that is I basically a long time ago, before you were even in a part of the consultation group that you're
Yeah.
in, but while it wasn't even called that, right? It had a different name, different
I don't even
everything.
know. Yeah, probably.
Yeah. And the it was I guess I'm allowed to say all this stuff. It was
You
gonna be
can.
Alan with Kim Prater, right?
Oh, that's right. That's right. I remember that.
And that's what I was signing up for. And then Tim had a block, right? He had like
Yeah.
some NDA or thing he signed
Yeah.
with some other group that's like, no, you can't. And like,
Yeah.
so anyway, and then Paul hopped on very shortly after
That's
that.
right.
Um, and so I paid for the first piece of it. And like I had run ads before, but I gave up because it's like, okay, well, I'm out of budget. Like, man, my out of budget is like, oh, I've used up that $20. Like,
Right.
the budget,
Right.
right? Because I'm sleeping in my gym. I have nothing. And so I basically spent am I allowed to say what this thing costed at that time?
Sure.
Yeah. So I spent, it was $500 a month at that time.
Mhm.
So I spent,
Yep.
put $500 on a credit card that I didn't have. And then I proceeded to put ad spend on a credit card. Like, so I didn't know how to do it. So I basically went through a tutorial video and then it's like, okay, and set it up exactly like that. Right.
Mhm.
And by the time and then the leads were coming in, and what I did for that when I was selling online, and there's different opinions about selling like challenges or boot camps or things like that. And I've basically generated close to $1 million through those. That I got a little plaque for it. I'm on even I'm either way on it, like if that's the best for you at your gym, but it's one way. And
It is
if I
one way.
another location tomorrow, that's absolutely what I would do if I had no resources, is because I
Sure.
can get the money back, right?
Yeah.
So the you can always afford it provided you know what you're doing. Um,
Provided you commit to making different decisions and
yeah.
doing different things. And you're a very humble person, and you're not highlighting the fact, I mean, you said it, but you're not highlighting the fact that you put this money on your credit card and then you said, I am giving myself 30 days to do something drastic. That's the difference. That's the biggest difference between working with school owners then and working with school owners now. Okay. Back then, we could work with people and we'd say, you've got to learn this and come in here and commit for 30 days and learn this stuff and then use it and apply it. And the people who came through that program at that time, I actually was around, but I was in a lower level program because I was broke, couldn't afford couldn't
Not more
afford that
broke than
either.
me. Though you did have
No,
kids.
but I had two
You had a
kids.
family, it's different. It's
Yeah.
different. Like if I go, but like, well, I'm already sleeping on the floor. What's going to happen
Yeah.
now? I mean,
No, I actually had when I signed up for the low level program, I had a 6-week-old baby. So like
well, I
not
didn't have
only
that. So
you did not have that. Not only did I feel broke at the time because hospital bills, but then it was like, can you commit to that type of behavior change? Well, I had a second child and an infant. I don't know. I don't know if I can commit to that. So, but it's understanding, like, one thing that you and I both do is we say, okay, I have X amount of time to make a very big difference. I have to make this work. We're both believers in the concept of burning the ships. Like, I'm not going to, if I make a commitment to do something, I'm not going to lean back and be like, okay, hope you guys do that work for me. Like, no, I'm in, I'm doing the work. And so are you. And I loved that program. Literally, we sort of reminisce about how it used to be back in those days, because everybody was so hungry to make change. And to look at them now, I mean, that was like 8 or 9 years ago when all of that happened, something like that. Somewhere around there, is it 8 or 9 years ago? 9 years ago?
this is
Oh.
before the program you're talking about, though, right? Because there was
No, I
only
remember
a
it.
whole program when I joined.
Okay. Okay.
Yeah,
But
it was.
either way,
Yeah,
it
yeah.
was like
Well, it
we,
was probably the same type of people, though, most likely.
yeah,
There
same type
were
of
a couple
people.
people that had money in there, though.
What
I
really?
remember some people in the very first batch of people, the brokest people were the first two people that were signed up. It was Brandon and me. We were the first two signups.
Oh, you know what? I remember this now. I actually was blocked out of that because there was somebody from Ann Arbor in the group.
Oh yeah. Okay.
I remember that now. Okay, I got it. I got it now. Okay. Either way, the point is when I fast forward, so from those people who stayed, you fast forward to now, and we're talking about like you and BMAC, and you know, it was a few versions later, but like Johnny Buck came from a similar thing, and Mario, you know, came from a similar thing. And it's like to see what you guys have learned and like taken as your own and how you run with it. It's been a life-changing thing. I'm like, you guys took that bit of information and then went so far with it in your own direction that like it's just really cool to watch. But now there's such a change in the industry where everyone, school owners and consultants, everybody is into this done for me service. And this is like goes back to what I was talking about how sometimes you need to learn how to be bored and do the hard work, the stuff that's not exciting, the stuff that's not the new shiny object, that's boring as hell, that no one else wants to do, because that's the stuff that has been the game changer for all of us who can honestly say, like, I joined this, I learned this, I implemented this, and now my life is very, very different. But it's not because the information is just mind-blowing. It's because we committed to implementing the things that were too boring for other people to bother with. We were willing to put in the, you know, blood, sweat, and tears or whatever, just the hours of tedious things of making these lists, of making these SOPs, of implementing these systems. And now things are going really well. And when people come to my gym, it's funny because they'll be like, oh man, I've never seen a gym run so well. I don't go to my gym to work in the gym. I go in now. I've had different versions of this. At the moment, I meet with my team once a week on Zoom. I talk with them daily because they have to send reports to me. There's two different reports to me that they send every night. I'm available for questions if they need to get a hold of me. And then I actually drop my son off to go train. So I'm in there basically glad handing and saying hello once a week, just about. But I honestly put about, at most, I would say 5 to 6 hours in on the gym per week. More if I'm trying to implement something new or hire something. But for the most part, on average, it's about 5 to 6 hours a week. But that comes, I didn't start there. I came from, you know, there was so much work sometimes where we would sleep. We had a blow up mattress in the gym, and then we got a futon because we were upgrading. Like we'd sleep there before we had kids because we lived actually out of state from our gym, which is a whole other story. But we just have so much to do that we were trying to work on that it was like, I don't even want to go home. I'll just stay here. And so I can use the computer and whatever, because I didn't have a computer at my house. Like I picked one computer and it stayed at the gym. So I just did it that way. But now they come in and they're like, oh, I don't know how you set this up. I don't know how I don't know how you got here. I don't have the money for this. I don't have the staff for this. I'm like, well, I certainly didn't start with that. That's for damn sure. We started subleasing out of a CrossFit gym in the corner where the bikes are now, you know? It didn't start this way. It's this way because we made incremental changes. We were committed to making incremental changes over the years. And now it is this really high functioning academy that runs part-time, but makes full-time money. And that's exactly the business model that we wanted.
Yeah, it's interesting you're talking about the done for you is because everybody I talked to wants that. And I'm actually about to pivot to offer that with Redbelt. In terms of, you may be talking about a different type of done for you. There's a billion done for yous. I'm talking about basically, here's a whole bunch of the emails, the system, like the automations. It's pre-made. We'll even put your gym's name in and whatever in our automations for you. So like that sort of thing. If you get that, that will, especially if you're at nothing or something really bad right now, that's going to increase your results, that you're going to get more out of leads. Would it increase it enough as much as if you really, really, really dove in? No. But back to what you were saying about that group of people, I've got a theory about that. Is that in BJJ and competitions, you see these people, and some people you see is like maybe they're a prodigy of the gym, and you know some of these gyms just have a good baseline of people that everybody the high
Mhm.
leagues are good. But there's some people they were always just going to win. They could have win in just
Yeah.
basically everywhere. They were always going to win. Now, whether
Yeah.
they would have won ADCC first, but they were going to be pretty decently high successful no matter what.
Mhm.
And a lot of the people you're referring to, um, like, you know, if you take myself and BMAC and Johnny Buck, we were all dead broke. I don't know if
Mhm.
BMAC was sleeping on the floor, but Johnny and I definitely have slept on the floor.
For
And
sure.
BMAC was just about as broke. And all three of us had no idea what we were doing. We had stupid systems and everything, if we had systems at all, and it was all garbage. But we were all three always going to win, like no matter
Mhm.
what.
Yeah.
Thankful.
Yeah.
I'm not just talking about competition in jiu-jitsu or business, all of the things. Like I'm thankful to all my coaches and mentors and everything, but like we were going to win no matter what because we were
Sure.
going to find some sort of way. Well, for all the other people, that's going to be the 1% of the industries. And
Yeah.
well, hearing that, you should try and be that because you can't lose if that happens. If you look at
Sure.
the Great Depression, uh, top businesses were founded then, right? So because those guys were kind
Fortunes were
of
made during the Great Depression. Absolutely.
yeah. So
Absolutely.
like you want to be the person that's always going to win because now nothing can stand in your way. That said, I also want to try to serve the rest of the people because I understand not everybody is going to be like that. And like you might
Yeah.
have wife and kids. I'm not going to jump like that. Like I don't even know what my life would have been like if I would have had a wife and kids because I would have maybe hesitated, right? What this means, like, what's going to happen? I'm going to starve to death. I'll eat somewhere. I'm already sleeping on the floor.
Yeah.
Whatever. Who cares? But if
Yeah.
it's like, if I was responsible for other people, it may have been different. So I get that. Um, so if you can't dive in all the way, like just optimize as much as you can. But yeah, like I think done for you is good, but learning to do it yourself also,
You
whether or
have
not
to at least,
it's done for you, it is.
yeah, you have to at least be aware of what is being done for you and know that if something ever broke, how you could jump in. And you know, there are harmless done for yous, I think, and then there are somewhat dangerous ones. It's funny. I had emails that were done for me, and I asked someone to. I just learned this. This is actually embarrassing, but I'm all about full transparency, so here it is. I asked someone to copy and paste the emails in, and they copied and pasted for some reason. There was a copy and pasted like a whole email sequence, like 59 emails. And they copied and pasted them. And for whatever reason, they had eliminated the merge tag. And so they used the name Grayson. So I just learned that my emails have been addressed to a person named Grayson for like a number of clients. I don't even know how many people have been being misnamed or whatever as or addressed as Grayson in emails for a serious amount of time. Like how freaking stupid of a mistake is that? But like it happens. It happens. If I would have had my own eyes on it, would it have happened? No. But I delegated. I didn't even automate, but I delegated this automation, if you will, and just made a stupid error until I went back to go through and just say like, well, I was just auditing a couple things and I was like, I wonder what these look like. I had somebody mention an offer that I said in one of them, and I was like, well, I wonder what the rest of them look like. And I go, oh my God, tell me we have not been sending emails out to Grayson. We absolutely have. So like
It's
how dumb. But yeah, I think emails now if you don't address them to the wrong person, I think automating email is actually brilliant. I think there's absolutely no reason why you should pretend that you're going to be able to in real time send the amount of emails that you should for your business. Like just you're not going to. So that's a great thing to automate. But I think you have to go back to what is jujitsu all about? It is one of the most personal, like primal, personal, personality based businesses you can be in. You are training with that person, and my husband always talks about it. He's like, we actually like to have people that are applying for jobs. We like to have them come in and train in a class because you can lie in an interview, but you can't lie when you're training with someone. We learn a lot about you as a person. And we're not green lighting you in any way. We're going to make it really nice for you, but you also can't keep up this facade of, interview facade through a jujitsu class. So we love to get to know you as a person. We want to do that. And we want you to experience what the academy is all about. And once you go in and physically do that, now you know. And we can now have conversations about whether or not you want to work here. But I think it's so personal on the mat that if we then switch 100% to this either canned or AI written communication off the mat, it's just not congruent with the type of community that we're trying to build. And if you try to automate, and this is what a lot of people are offering and selling to the martial arts community right now, are these automated appointment setter and sales process. Like there are people out now saying
I like some new lead nurture content, and appointment reminders I think are fine. And I think
for sure.
I think there's some great sequences there, but like there's several of them, the little Allen software that used to be by Vermosi, and there's several of them, and it's just like people have told me they've gotten good results from, but like I've never used it. I've looked at it. It's like decision diamonds, right? And supposedly
I'm not a fan.
And whatever.
I'll say it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'll say it. I'm okay with it. I talked with Alex Hormozy about that software. I was on the phone with him twice about that. He created that software. And I said to him, I'm not being a dick here, but these are my numbers. Your software can't beat my numbers with a well-trained team. And he said, no, it can't. He said, but it's not designed to beat the 1% team. He goes, it's never going to do that, but it's going to be better than the average person who's waiting 7 days to try to set an appointment with someone,
I mean, because the bar is real low in this industry.
Really low.
You can trip and fall over the bar. Like,
yeah, exactly. But I thought it was good that he was honest about it. And he was like, no, you're right. A well-trained team will beat this software every single day for sure. He said, but for the low bar, this software is going to be better than what most people are doing. Well, if I'm given that software like that is not cheap. So if I'm given the opportunity, or again, we're looking at, okay, it's a couple thousand here or a couple thousand in staff and my time and training and whatnot, and I know that I'm going to win doing this, but I'm at the mercy of software doing this, and I don't even own my leads or whatever else, I'm going to do this one because this is the long-term one. This is controllable on my end. And yeah, you have good staff members and bad staff members that people come and go, but at the end of the day, this is the system that I created and I'm in control of, and I can make sure that it gets the output that I want. Where this, the decision diamonds, AI is a loose term, I think, for what that really is. But
it's decision diamonds. It's not really AI, but
right.
We digress. It doesn't matter what it is. And
everybody wants to buy the AI solution right now, and there is somebody out there who will always sell it to you if you want to buy it.
For sure.
But
and competitors are going that route, and I'm going actually the opposite. So in terms of basically setting up things with getting you on the phone with customers, I've got one thing that I'm not going to announce today because I've got an announcement coming from it. But like basically, I'm going in the direction of we do want automation and things like that to supplement, but also with Redbelt kind of being. It's to work with your team. And basically, if I can get you on the phone with customers more, which is the opposite of those softwares we're talking about right there. They basically tell you don't call your leads anymore. That's what they tell you.
Yeah, don't call on your leads. You'll be interrupting our process. I've heard that before. And I'm like,
you've heard the same pitch I've heard, right? Okay. So I'm going the opposite of that. It's like, hey, we're going to help you put you on the phone.
I love that.
With more of these, a higher percentage of the time. And that's more things that I'm going towards. So yes, I think that's how software should be used. And that's the opposite direction the rest of the industry is going. Everybody else is integrating with Chat GPT, which is easy to do right now, by the way, with the custom GPTs. It's super easy to do. So all these, we have our super sick, you with no coding, you can build your own in 20 minutes. It's not impressive. It's basically still GPT.
Like to give you an idea,
it's persistent, right? So it's a persistent knowledge that it has without having it so you can hey, your job is you do this, and you respond these certain ways. Like, so it's a slightly customized,
Mm-hmm.
but for 20 bucks a month, you can have your own right now. And it's not going to solve all your problems. Though I
No,
have bought GPT and I like it and I use it, but not in the ways these guys use it.
same. I use ChatGPT often. I use it multiple times per week, and maybe not every day, but multiple times per week. I was a writer first, and so I love content and copywriting. But truthfully, I've learned that over the years that I prefer editing to anything. So what I do a lot of times is I will prompt. If anyone remembers back in school in writer's block, I may prompt something on AI. And I love creating what I call, I'm such a nerd about it, but like AI wars. So I always have, it's a Bard. Google's Bard is now Gemini. So I like to have ChatGPT and Gemini fight each other for who has better content. And sometimes I'll like put one of their suggestions into the other one and be like, what do you think of this? Like, I just loved, I don't know why, I'm a nerd. But then ultimately what I do is I take whatever they've given me and I say, okay, but I need to make it sound like it was written by me. And you can do that. And so sometimes I'll even say like, yeah, make it less casual. Don't say the word, what are some of the words they like to use? Whenever you talk about combat sports, they'll be like, uh, they go very ninja sometimes or battle.
Yeah,
And I'm
yeah.
like, stop saying battle. Like pull the word battle, replace battle. Like, so whatever, just stuff like that. And then they change it. And then I go through though, and I add the things that ChatGPT can never do. And this is the difference of like what most people will just take what ChatGPT gives them and they'll use it. No. There's got to be a step beyond that because ChatGPT pulls information from the internet. They cannot pull information from my husband's brain or mine for that matter. So, how do I make this ChatGPT based piece of content sound real? I have to go and add things that ChatGPT could never know. And so that's how I use it. The second step is editing the hell out of it and putting stuff in that ChatGPT would never know. And then do people know that the base of the email was written or the formatting was done by ChatGPT? No, they just think I'm really good at formatting because they see quotes in there, or they see some of our core values of our academy shared that wouldn't have been something they could find on the internet. So it feels very custom, but it saved me a significant amount of time. So I use ChatGPT as a tool like anything else, but it's not a solution, it's a tool. It's just a tool, like something else that you can utilize, but I don't want it to try to take over the personal relationships that we're establishing in the gym. This is a culture sport where we want people to train with us for 10 years or more. I don't want that relationship to be cultivated through AI. I want it to be cultivated through people. So I can't automate every single step of every process, especially the relationship building steps of the process that has to be done with an actual well-trained human being.
It's interesting that you have like you were using it and you're its editor, and I've been using it the opposite way for my documentation actually.
Okay.
So making documentation for my software, I've been making it, and I'm notorious at this company for making ugly documentation.
Oh,
So
really? That's funny.
so now it's like, hey, I gave it like the sample copies, that the ones that like the my devs like, and it's like, hey, take this, don't add or change anything, but put it in this format. It's like, and now
Yeah.
everybody's happy. So it just, and I reformatted 70 something pages of documentation like last month, right? So
Yeah.
like made a lot of this stuff, and it could get that done almost immediately,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, I had it edit and reformat my documentation for me. So yeah,
That's
so you
funny.
can leverage it, but basically it didn't. That's the same. That's my words, and it
Mhm.
was a very mild ghostwriter. So you can use it that way and still be you, or you can let it do your job for you, like these sci-fi things where you go home and now AI's dating your wife or whatever. So like
Right.
so no, I don't. I think that's maybe too far. But before we wrap up, because we've done a lot of things, I would like, because I think it's the most valuable thing that we've done is talking about the time blocking. I would like to
Mm,
quickly visit, and if you could give more examples of the filler things between 3 to 5, because I
sure.
think I think that's where The winning is done that that a lot
Yeah.
of the listeners need to be doing is they're not doing this stuff.
Okay. Let me pull up a few things. So let me pull up something just because I want to make sure and have it in front of me. So I don't have everybody's time block schedule memorized. I do have them on spreadsheets though. So there's a way bigger conversation here. Hang on a minute.
So much material, so little podcasts.
I know.
Best we can.
I know. That's okay. Yeah, you'll have to hop on something to see this now because I do my roles and responsibilities very different. Okay. So what was your question? Can you repeat that?
So basically between the 12 and the end of the day, or whatever time you start, maybe you started in the earlier morning or whatever, but
Mhm.
say you started at like 11 or 12 all the way till 5, that piece. So you had your appointment setting power hour and you took a little
Mhm.
break. So in the different days, what are the things that we should be, that you'd recommend, or the things that should be blocked off?
Sure. Okay, great question. All right. So for me, one of the things that I do is actually a step before the time block schedule. We talked briefly about making lists. For me, the lists are the first step of the process, but ultimately, a list is how you complete a task or how to do one of your responsibilities. So I actually highlight the task or responsibilities after that. So I've made the list, but now maybe there's two of us in the business. I need to start identifying whose responsibilities go or which responsibilities go with which person. The second you have more than one person, this is really important to do. But again, I believe that you should begin how you intend to go on. So if it is just you, identifying your responsibilities is still important. It may be a huge list of responsibilities if it's just you running your gym, but eventually we're not going to just pass off checklists. What I'd prefer you to do is highlight the responsibilities that go to the other person. The checklists come along with it. It's like a bullet point that opens up. Okay, here's the way you do it. But you as this other person, you're doing these 5 things. You're responsible for these 5 line items. So in our academy, I have actually set it up so that everyone has their list of responsibilities. And I use this list of responsibilities for literally every step of the process. It's included in my job postings so that there is no misunderstanding of what I expect you to do. I use that. It's actually framed. All of everyone's job duties, job responsibilities, they're framed on the wall of our office. So there's never any question about it. I actually have a wet erase marker over there as well in case they're ever struggling to get anything done. They need to let me know. And if it's like, never get to this, I never get to this, I want to know that uh, because I'm going to go back and look at the time block schedule and say, why do you never get to this? What's happening that's stopping you from doing it? Is there an issue in the schedule? Is it too much work and something else? What is stopping you from being able to do this? We're going to have a conversation about it. Everything is a collaborative conversation. So I'm going to have the roles and responsibilities, and then I'm going to take those roles and responsibilities and I'm going to apply those to the time blocks. So to give you an example of some of the things that we put in the time blocks, again, we have social media coordination and scheduling for the week. We're going to take advantage of some AI or some automation and schedule out some posts using, the social media platforms allow us to do that, to schedule posts. So we're going to go ahead and use that. So we actually have it on this schedule right here as 2 times per week. I already said that we have a chunk of time for deal cleaning and audits. And then at this exact time, this is actually 3:30 to 5 now that I look at it. On Wednesday, we have an all leadership team meeting from 3:30. It actually goes till about 4:30. Because now we have classes that start at 5. So this is all about a 1-hour block. If you ever find that you don't have time to have a meeting, you just have to put a block in. Appointment setter, power hour, academy prep. I have a block called hit list creation. And then I have another block that says attack the hit list. That means hit is highly important tasks, things that come up that need to be done right now. So they are both urgent and important. And they have a list, they have a little notebook that they use to identify things at the end of the shift that need to be done immediately the next day. So I'm a firm believer in writing your to-do list for tomorrow at night so that because you're in that headspace where you know exactly what needs to be done. So at the end of the night, they have a block from 7 to 7:15. It's really short. That's kind of when classes are all going on. We all know that like when classes are on the mat, you have a little bit of time. So instead of just scrolling or doing whatever, I have this hit list creation as a block. And you write down all the stuff where it's like, I need to make sure to call this person. I need to make sure that we get that order in for the ghee order in. I need to reach out and, upload this email or whatever. I need to send this email out. You write your highly important tasks on that list at night in those 15 minutes. And then you put that thing away because you can everything has been pulled out of your brain. It's on a list. You don't have to worry about it anymore. You finish the night strong with our students, which is literally what the block says after that from 7:15 to 9, finish the night strong because there's a ton of sales. There's a ton of presentations going on at that time. But the next day at 2 o'clock, from 2:10 to 3 o'clock. So we have like a 10-minute walk where you get a little bit of a break. And then I have a very short 50-minute time block in here. So from 2 to 2:10, you can go for a little walk. You can just take a little break. From 2:10 to 3 o'clock, you have 50 minutes to attack your hit list. And you just need to go gangbusters with whatever it is that you wrote the time before. So I think you have to really limit that one because that can also be considered putting out fires a little bit. And if you don't force yourself to go kind of fast and furious in 15 minutes or 50 minutes, that can take up actually your entire day. And if you only do those things, you feel like, oh, I handled all the things that needed to be done. But you didn't give yourself time. Those are urgent, important tasks. But if you don't time block things for social media or anything else that's important, that hit list can actually take up all those other things. Urgent, important tasks, and then we get into non-urgent, important tasks. Non-urgent, important tasks are things that require assigned blocks of time because you can allow the urgent things to kind of get in the way. But non-urgent, important tasks are money makers. They are the things that grow and change your business. So you need to make sure to build in those times so that your business is continuing to grow and you're not just getting stuck in the day-to-day kind of muddle of putting out fires and dealing with clients and never actually working to grow your business. So I think this, again, it goes back to personal accountability and forcing you to do things that, might get overlooked if you're not really giving it the time to do so. And understanding the difference between those urgent, important tasks and the non-urgent, important tasks and blocking them appropriately, I think is just super crucial.
Yeah. So we have basically social media creation.
Oh, yeah. Social media creation and scheduling. And for me, I've got 2 days on that. And not for me, but it's an hour and a half, 2 times a week to get that done.
Creation happens separately. So that happens like during class times or that happens.
Yeah. So when we have coaches, we pay them hourly. And they have a few, I do that. I don't pay by class. I pay hourly because it allows me to ask them to do a few extra things. And one of the things that we ask them to do is take photos and videos of their class. And they have to upload them or just, send them from their phone to a Google file. And then the person who's scheduling can actually schedule out all those posts. So the coaches are taking the content. They're the ones who are actually filming it or taking photos. And then they send it to the person who is then looking through them, seeing what photos are any good, seeing what's not very good, getting rid of the ones they don't like, and then using it's kind of a two-prong approach for us. They're using them in social media and scheduling them out, but then they're also sending them to our ads manager if we need to change out content for the social media ads that we're running, and we need new graphics, new images, they'll be sending them to them as well. So that's kind of, that's what they're doing there. The other one also highlights, the other block, the second block also highlights emails and any additional nurture campaigns, or if we're going to email a blog out that week, it'll be done during that same time frame. Inventory is another block that we have. I actually forgot to mention that. That's a separate block. Somebody has got to go around. Everybody's got a lot of stuff that they have to order. So once a week, you should be doing basic inventory for things like your gear, rash guards, gis, belts, whatever it is.
You give inventory, like 45 minutes or less, more?
I have it as about an hour. But if you're doing it pretty consistently, you should be good to go. T-shirts. But again, I also include all of our Amazon purchases, all of our waters, all of our toilet paper, all of our everything. We don't shop for anything. That's one of the first things that I eliminate from a human doing. It can be a human, but it ain't going to be me. I'll tell you that. So, we're going to use Amazon as much as we can, or Instacart, or some sort of grocery delivery. If it's we can't get waters anywhere cheaper than Costco, but that doesn't mean I have to be the one to go to Costco, because I know what happens to me when I go to Costco. It's not a quick trip. It's an experience. Just saying. So I need to protect my time a little bit. So I'm not going to be that one. Also my wallet, because when I go there, I see all the things that I feel like I need and I don't, So how do I get in and out of Costco cheap? I don't. I send someone else. That's the only way to do it. So I have Instacart goes and gets the waters, and they come back. And we've had Instacart delivery just weekly for waters and cases of water. Man, we've had that for years now. Works really well.
So inventory, social media management, the hit creation, hit execution.
Yep. Deal cleaning and audits. We said that. Couple of shift
cleaning and audit. Oh, deal.
I call it deal cleaning. I used to sell cars, so I call it deal cleaning, which is, again, just basically taking your paperwork that from your. I'm a paperwork person. Don't judge me. I like old school paperwork. I don't like signing people up online for a program. I don't know. I've done it. I just like it better using paper. So I use handwritten agreements, and I use hand signed stuff, liability forms, and then we upload them later. So that's actually one of the things that goes into deal cleaning and audits is we take all of the paperwork from the signed deals. We go and make sure that it was all entered correctly. And that's actually probably the reason why I do it, because if I have paper agreements, then I'm going over every single one of them and making sure that it was entered into the software correctly. I did find that when we were using online agreements that people never did that step of making sure it was entered correctly, and we had more errors that way. So I think I typically do this with 2 different sets of eyeballs. It's usually 2 different people who are doing it. And the second person doesn't have any emotional attachment to whatever. So they just look and they're like, no, you actually set it so that they're not going to be collecting payments for the next 6 months, or you forgot to turn this on, or you forgot to toggle this one switch, or whatever it is. Having the paper agreement and really giving it an hour and a half or 2 hours worth of time to make sure that all your agreements are in properly. It's mission critical. You can't, and then I don't get mad at your software because somebody didn't get billed. I know that Ashlyn likes to call it a PEBCAC error. Have you heard this? Problem exists between keyboard and share, meaning it's a you problem. You screwed this up. It's not the software. It's your fault. So we get to determine and see and make sure that it is our fault. And if it is our fault, we'll go and fix it in that block. So that's a really important one. But I'm an auditor. We've got 3 steps of audits in our academy. So different people have different things. So this is what I'm looking at right here is one person's. This is our admin coordinator job description. That is their responsibility. I don't time block out my highest level employees. I leave it to them to do it. But another one that we're doing for, I'm looking at sales manager, they've got a block that's a half hour for video appointment reminders and yesterday's follow-up. So like if you had be backs, people who I didn't buy tonight, but I swear I'll be back, we give them a half hour to reply back to those people, thank them for coming in, and see if you can't start that conversation to get them to come back in and sign up.
So every day you have that
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
that's
Yep.
separate from a appointment setting power hour itself.
Correct. That's
And is
separate.
that done on the phone or that's done on text or like hybrid? Like
Hybrid. Hybrid. I prefer phone because, again, we've already had a lot of interaction with that person. So I feel like we've earned the right to make the phone call. But you could start it with a text. You could really do either one.
what?
But yeah, that's a half hour every single day. Sorry?
That's the middle of the day.
Yeah. So this guy's schedule has altered just a bit. I have it right before his second appointment setter power hour. For a half hour before that is video appointment reminders for today's appointments. Again, I'm trying to get confirmation. The reason I do this is my video
reminders for existing appointments.
for today's appointment. Yeah, so video appointment reminders, or just reminders for today's appointments that I'm going to send, and follow up from yesterday. So what I'm trying to do is confirm my night. That's a block, is confirm my night. I want to know how many people are actually coming in. I know how many are on the schedule, but how many of those people are actually coming in tonight? And how many people who were on the schedule yesterday need to come back tonight to sign up? Or I need to put them back on the schedule for tomorrow night, and they're going to sign up before class because they want to come back. They just didn't sign up yesterday, but they meant to, they want to now. So I'm doing that before an appointment setter power hour, because I know after that, if I get a no or a reschedule from one of tonight's appointments, I now know that I have an extra open appointment tonight, and I'm going to, in my next appointment setter power hour, I'm going to try to fill that with somebody tonight, which we actually had happen yesterday. We had a block, somebody's canceled. And we had a guy named Eric who called in, and Ryan said, hey, we could do this next week. Or I actually had an opening just pop up tonight. And that wasn't a false scarcity thing. It literally happened. And he showed up same day. So, you get that information from this little half hour before your appointment setter power hour block, the second one.
Okay, so that is there any other ones to give people an idea of like what you would block out? Because there's all the things. So what do you put inside all the things? I mean, we're probably missing some still.
Let me look. Okay, so if I look at, I'm going to go back. So all of these have been cross-referenced with my goals and responsibilities for each position. Okay, so if I'm just looking through some of these goals and responsibilities, I'm going to run through a couple of them. One of them is the number one, proactively set and confirm appointments. Well, I know that that's been addressed on the time block schedule. Prepare all necessary paperwork materials for daily appointments and classes. In my academy setup, one of the things that and in inventory, really, because we actually have all of our documents now shipped to us because we get them in bulk. So if we're running low, that's all covered in inventory for the running low on those documents. But again, making sure we use some clipboards, we use some different things like that. In preparing the academy for the night, that second one is actually included in there. So again, when I said that our responsibilities are like a bullet point that open to a checklist, it all actually falls under there. Even though we're saying it with general terms like social media, there's a lot of goals and responsibilities that exist under that heading of social media. And then there are the individual checklists that kind of exist under that. So it's kind of a 3 bullet point outline, really. I'm a big fan of Workflowy. I don't know if you know that software. It's a really weird software because when you go to Workflowy, like for the first time, it's just a dot. It's literally a white screen with a dot. And it can become the world's craziest outline ever. And it can expand kind of infinitely. But it's sort of how my brain works. So I just really enjoy it. So I always think of these dots like expanding. And that's how we do it. So we have that heading of social media or that block of social media, but it continues to expand. All right. Work with sales manager to finalize, process cancellations, handle missed payments, long-term delinquent processes, just anything like that. They've got some of these. There's a coordinator check-in little block. If you've got multiple staff members, I give them time to meet with their little individual teams But that's not, that's not something that would apply to most gyms that don't have multiple people. I do think you should definitely block any meetings that are really crucial to have, like owners meetings or leadership or management meetings. But then again, if you're asking your staff to manage groups of people, I want to give them the opportunity to meet as well. So like I said, I'm going through the goals and responsibilities, and that's in there. When I look at some of the next ones, it's falls under that we're working with clients now, that kind of 5 p.m. to 9, where you're just working with clients, but really there's a lot of goals and responsibilities that happen during that we're just working with clients right now block. And it involves things like conducting tours, signing up new members. Let's see. Here's some of the other ones. Providing excellent customer service, answering any questions that people have about their billing. That stuff's all coming in there. Clerical duties, answering phones, responding to emails. That's all kind of given in there. Inventory, like I said, that's a block. Coordinating with owners regarding staff schedules. That's all done during our block for our meeting. Making payments. Now, this particular one actually falls under someone else's responsibility, but this is something that could require its own block, which would be processing invoices, making payments, tracking receipts, basically your kind of bookkeeping and accounts payable, receivable stuff. That is a block.
Owner or for some high ranking person or something like that.
It's either for an owner. Yeah. Again, I have a list of my own goals and responsibilities because a lot of times we'll make these for low-level employees, but we have to have them as well. We need to know what's required of us, and somebody's got to pay the damn bills, so you need to make sure that you put in a time where you're going to block out time and look at all those boring emails and, make sure that your money's looking right and do that stuff. You need to set that aside as a block. So again, that's not I'm looking at a schedule right now. It's not this person's, but it's someone else's. Let's see. I'll tell you, I've simplified a lot of things. I don't do as much in the academy, I think, as people think I would. I've eliminated so much. And actually, you've been around for the whole thing. So like you saw Amy at her most complicated. When I first started working in the coaching realm, I used to feel like,
with all the respect in the world, I used to go get something to eat during your presentations.
Fair.
Yeah.
Well,
I did in the last ones. The very first one, and then after that, it's like, this seems like lunchtime because this is
a lot of things. Well, I've changed as a person.
They could be good though, right? They could be good, but one, I'd seen them before, and two, it's like,
well, that's totally fair. You don't hurt my feelings when you leave. It's okay. But no, one thing that I've definitely
was so much like that I would ask a question. It's like, because you thought I was making fun of you, but it was like, I don't consider myself dumb with systems, and some of it I just couldn't understand. And you've gotten way better at that. But some of the first ones, like, hey, I don't understand the difference between this and this. Like, there's a lot of lines here on this thing. And
yes. So yeah, no, that's totally fair. I definitely,
and I do the same thing when if I try to help people and do stuff, or with my team, everyone, with my devs, like I got some geniuses here, and sometimes I make it too confusing. Like I have
I get it.
That I make it too confusing sometimes.
Yeah. Well, I think some of mine was insecurity. I mean, I'll totally admit to that. When I was first brought into the company, here's, you talked about the beginning of the company. Here's Alan, who's Alan. And then there's Paul, who's like just one of the most respected guys in the industry ever. Like he's, been around for such a long time, and he's just a good dude. Like people like him, and then I'm coming in, and who the hell am I, And well, they said I should be here. And that's definitely how I felt for a very long time. So I think when I used to present, I had information, but I almost used to just data dump on people, like with just more information than you will ever need, like just vomit all this information. And it was like, see, I've proven that I deserve to be here because look at how much information I have. And I think that was like how I dealt with not feeling with that bit of imposter syndrome about being up on a stage with people I really respected. Did I deserve to be here? Well, let me show you everything I know. And here you go. And I remember actually, I spoke when we had Ryan Stewman as our keynote speaker. I actually spoke before him. And I had done that. And it was good. Like, it was good information. But what he said to me, his feedback, he said, okay, but make it simple. And I was like, what? Just so blown away by it. Okay, but make it simple. That was all of it. And I remember feeling, I know it was insecurity because I remember immediately my gut reaction is, but how will they know that I know more? You know? And it was coming to terms with the fact that, like, it takes, and he did follow it up with, it's way harder on us as coaches to take what we know and make it easy for people to understand. And anyone will know that you know more than that. But if you can make it easy for people to understand and follow, that's the highest level. Spitting
Yes.
more is not the high level. That's mid-level. Get to the high level and speak less. Make it easy. So we can nerd out. And there are times I love doing this with you because you do understand systems more than most. So it's like I can nerd out about all this stuff and go into that. But when it comes to how I coach people now, it's so different. It's going to be like, here are the 3 things you're doing. This is all I want you to do. Just if you can't, and that's how I do it with my own team. That's why I have their job descriptions framed on a wall. Because the challenge to me is if I can't fit it on one piece of paper that I can frame, then I've made their job too complicated. Even Kris's fits on a half a page paper. Mine fits on 3/4 of a page of paper. Nobody's is more than 1 page. So we keep things simple now.
Yeah, simple is where it's at. One time, Brandon brought me to sushi and I was uncultured and I had almost never had it. And he's like, hey, I feel like the way to tell a good sushi place is like to order the most basic thing. And like
Yeah,
this, if you can do the simple one right, they're actually good. Like
I
it's hard to
agree.
tell from the complicated thing. So I think um, coaching, software, all the things is that's really how you tell if something's good. Is like if they can streamline and simplify the basic stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, there's all sorts of softwares out there. Like for a while, there's this one you probably heard of. It was like Builderall tried to be what Go High Level is now.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
but so I actually personally think Go High Level kind of has this problem, but Go High Level is getting some more traction. But like
Mm.
Builderall was like, I had good affiliate deals and stuff, so people promoted, but like it had all the things in the world. Like everything you could possibly imagine was inside there, but like it was all very complex and hard to use. And did it work? Who knows? You can't find it
Yeah.
anyway. Don't really matter. And it's like from like the perspective of engineers and developers looking at it, it's like, man, this is hard to use, but it has all the things. Um,
Yeah.
so I think that it's way more. I think you're correct that that's the real reason I took lunch break. Is yes, I'd heard it before, but it's those things have 10 presentations in a row.
Mm.
And many presenters presented 1 to 2 ideas, and you
Mm-hmm.
presented 20 ideas. And
Sure.
poor Brian's brain can't take 20 ideas right now, but it can take lunch
Fair.
starts for the next one. And
Yeah.
I have to remember that because I do the same stuff, right? So I'm not trying to like, oh, Amy, like I do the
No,
same
no, no.
thing. I have to remember that like when I think the podcast, we jump around a lot, but you guys can hit the rewind button. But for
That's right.
in person events, yeah, I do think that speakers should focus on certain events. I think the jiu-jitsu instructors should focus on topics of the day. I think, and importantly to this conversation, when talking to employees, there's like, oh yeah, you need to opening checklist, you need to clean the floor
Mm-hmm.
and open the thing and like that, and after that you do the thing and the thing and what they learned was, boy, it wants a lot of stuff. I don't remember any of that stuff, and like, man, hope my resume's up to date because I don't think I'm
That's right. There's
right.
not, all of us have gone through that process. My husband has gone through that process as well. I remember again, why it goes back to why do we need systems in the first place? Because our natural behaviors do not give us the results that we want. My natural behavior to just be the full nerd that I am. I was a Harry Potter person, so I'm a Ravenclaw, if that means anything to anyone. I'm going with it.
I got it, and
Which
all
means
the other people won't they won't admit to it, but they know what you're
They know what it is. It means for me, it's more is more when it comes to information. More is more. I love knowing. I want to know all the things. I want to know every different direction and all around it. I want to know everything about it. If I commit to learning something, man, I'm going to deep dive really hard into it. But most people aren't like that. And I have to also remember, I'm not speaking to me. I'm not speaking to, again, I can nerd out with Barncap, but like, I'm not going to do that with everybody else because it's going to overwhelm people. I can't do it with my staff. I know I can't. I know those people and I know that overwhelms them. So I know I can't do that. So again, my brain and my notes may be insane, but I don't have a list in our academy that's longer than one page ever for anyone. Mine are, but I can't let them see what my brain does because my brain is different than them. That's why I'm the business owner and they work for me. I give them one page and they just have to check this off. So, my husband, I remember the first time we ever left our academy and someone taught for us, we didn't have to close down. And Kris went to him. He didn't have curriculum written at the time. This is, again, why do you have written curriculum? Because if you don't, what you teach in the academy is not going to be as good as if you did. And he said, he asked the guy who taught for him, he goes, what did you teach? And he said, I taught my 8 favorite arm bars. And I was like, what? At the time, it was kind of like, not sure if I can even name 8 arm bars off the top of my head. Like, you taught 8 arm bars in a 60-minute class? And he goes, yeah, it was a lot, but it was cool. And I'm like, oh my God. Okay. Which just basically, Kris looks at me, he goes, which means no one learned anything. And I'm like, yeah, how would you even fit that in? You don't have 10 minutes per arm bar. Like, what on earth is that? And you got warm up and cool down. Like, it's crazy. It was crazy. So, Kris is now, he's like, at this point, he was laughing. He's like, I think I teach one technique a month, and I'm like, you don't. And he goes, no, but it's a concept and a system. He goes, I teach one system a month. And he goes, we're going to focus on it in all the different ways in each class. And we're going to, build it up and break it apart and whatever. But it's like a concept that you stay on for a long time. And that's why I have to keep going back to the OCD checklist, the opening, closing, during checklist, the checklist that everyone thinks is so dumb. It's because it sounds so simple and it sounds so easy, and it is simple, but that's why it's first, because it's easy for you to make. And it's the one, you're probably thinking, again, like I told you before, when I was insecure about it, I would try to give you the most complicated one. But now I've been doing this a long time. I know the one that works the best. You have to start here. You have to start with one you can win. And you can win the OCD checklist. Do it, implement it, and make it amazing. And also, let's say you already have staff or your significant other or business partners doing this stuff. Who's the person to write the SOP? The person who actually does that job. That's the person who writes the SOP, not necessarily you. If you're not the one who opens the academy, don't try to sit down and write the SOP of how to open the academy. If your business partner opens the academy, they write that SOP. And then they pass it off to you, if you're the owner and final decision maker, and you look at it with this question in your mind. You say, if this was done every single day, is this adequate? That's first. That's adequate. And you say, all right, now you look at it and you say, okay, it's adequate. I know all bases are covered. Then we say, is this the best that we could do? Or is there something that we could add that would make this better? Is this the best that we can do? Or is there something that we could add that would make this better? And again, that really comes into play when we get into some of the other systems. But even at the beginning, it was like, it would be cool if we had coffee. I would love to have coffee available, an opening checklist. Otherwise, people are trying to order coffee. It would be cool if we added coffee. Let's get a coffee station. So we got a big Keurig and, a little display thing. We put a coffee station in. And it was like, oh, this feels really good in here. Are we creating the environment where people are going to want to bring their kids and stay and, hang out here? Yeah. Like, people are going to like it here. This feels cool in here. It feels nice. We call it a dude country club sometimes, but like, it feels like a good place to hang out. So when we started with that OCD checklist, it led to conversations about the type of community and culture that we wanted. So I know I didn't, sorry, I know I didn't answer that time block exactly the way that you want it, where I'm going to give you every single thing in its own block. But the truth is that these start to merge and evolve, and and inspire conversations about other things. But these blocks and these goals and responsibilities and these lists lead to bigger conversations about culture and community and relationship building. And that's when you know you're on the right track, is when those things start to become, we've got all the stuff done, but we're really focusing on the intangibles. And that's the stuff that makes your academy great. And that's the stuff that makes people want to stay in your academy for 10, 12 years. And then they find their identity there. They're like, I train at Ursa Academy. I train jiu-jitsu there. That's one of the things that is really defining in who they are. It's because of those intangibles that we've given ourselves the time to create, because we handle all of the other stuff in systems, and that was easy. So now we get to focus on the cool stuff.
Yeah, I think this has been really great. I think this is kind of the core of things. I think there's a different way to look at the core of things. And I knew I wanted to have Amy on because I knew she would have a different perspective than all the other people on, even though I've had people on, like Johnny was on the previous one, and
Yeah.
BMAC's been on, and, like, you know, people that
Nice.
are connected, right?
Mm-hmm.
That probably have somewhat similar systems to you.
Yeah.
At least in some ways, have been on
Mm-hmm.
here. And but yeah, you definitely deliver the information and think about things a different way. So I definitely think this was good. If anybody has any questions, wants to know how to follow you, things like that, what should they do?
Yeah, Instagram is the best place. I'm Amy B. Magers at Instagram, Magers with a G, Magers. If you've got that written somewhere, that's helpful. But yeah, Amy B. Magers on Instagram. And like I said, I'll give you, if anyone wants to, who's listening to this, wants that OCD checklist, that editable version, I absolutely will give that to anyone. If they want to shoot me a DM, I'll make sure that you get that.
All right. Well, thank you so much. Do you have any other things that you want to add, or anything like
No, we're
that?
going to keep it simple. I think we go any further, we're going to go too deep. So we'll stay where we are today. We got plenty of homework based on that for sure.
Oh yeah, it's I don't know if we did the simple, actually, because there's a lot here. But
We're
yeah,
middle ground. We're middle ground.
there's a lot to go back, and most of these podcasts that are potentially watchable a lot of times. Like,
Oh
you go
yeah.
back to take notes and re-implement, and like there's enough here. So basically, what I do on this podcast is I trick people into giving away $50,000 worth of stuff for free,
Fair.
because essentially that's uh if I paid that much to combat, it was probably at least 30 or 40,000, right?
Probably.
So,
Yeah.
and I try to get like the best parts of it, and then get you to give away to all of it to everybody for free.
That's
So,
fair.
so that's
That's
what we've
fair.
done so far. But we had a lot of fun doing it. Um,
Absolutely. And no worries. There's always more. There's always more.
there's
So we've
always
always got
more,
more.
and no worries. Not everyone learned it in an hour anyway.
We're good. We're good. Yeah, hit me up if they want to DM me for that. But otherwise, I think it's great. You definitely could dig through. I know those other people very well. I'm sure every one of those podcasts you could dig through for a few hours and really come up with some great homework. And while you're new, while your business is new, take advantage of free resources like this. I mean, the information is out there. We said that before. Like, nothing is brand new. It's about what you choose to commit to implementing. That's the difference. Whether you pay for that information or you get information like this for free that he's providing for you, or we're all providing for you, just take advantage of it, commit to it, implement it, and you're going to see big results. You don't have to pay for it to see big results.
All right. Thanks so much.
You're so welcome. Thank you.